Dan here, Bitcoin Universalist. I decided I needed an intro song. Bitcoin Universalist. That's it. So I'm here to talk about the Canadian truckers blockade anti-vaccination mandate thing. And I'm approaching it from the perspective of being a Bitcoin maximalist. Ideology, that place where we have been programmed by government, by media, whatever, to live, that place of ideology, left versus right, socialism versus libertarianism. I mean, you could go on and on. Ideology is a false construct. Because both sides, all sides, are always saying the same thing underneath their arguments from an ideological perspective or a values-based perspective. They're saying freedom, liberty, sovereignty, equity. These are the words that come through. You know, you look at people who think socialism is horrible. I know a man who is like, socialism is the worst thing ever. And I'm like, dude, you were a union organizer in the 1970s. You led union activities against a factory. That's socialism, ideologically speaking, is like, no, we were fighting for our rights. I'm like, exactly. So ideology is a false construct. Governments, people in power, whatever. I mean, I don't want to sound too conspiratorial because that's yucky. Governments and people in power and people who are in control have created ideology, consciously and unconsciously, as a way to aggrandize people to their view of things, right? And we know, based upon the Hegelian dialectic, Bitcoin Universalist, that the minute you replace one ideology with another, the prevailing ideology, the one that's in charge, becomes the abuser, the exploiter, right? So the Bolsheviks rise up against Tsarist Russia and against the oppression and serfdom, and they take power, and then they become the oppressors, and Stalin kills 25 million people. So with regard to the Canadian truckers blockade, I hear a lot of people identifying with the issue ideologically. They're identifying with the truckers and their anti-vaccine mandate stand there. You know, I read little bits where people are saying things like, you know, the left-wing socialist government is trying to control. All governments try to control. It's how they exist, right? The existence of fiat money tries to control. And it's not like this dark and foreboding, you know, authoritarian 1984 controlled thing. It's just, in order for society in some ways to function, governments control their citizens. And then, of course, you play that out and that can get pretty out of control. I look at Bitcoin with regard to the truckers convoy protest blockade thingy in two ways. One, I think it's fascinating that, you know, the GoFundMe people, is there a Canadian equivalent of GoFundMe? I don't know. That the GoFundMe people said, well, we're not going to release this money because ideologically we don't support what the money is going toward. And so Bitcoiners came to the rescue and said, well, we'll just circumvent the government and circumvent GoFundMe, and we'll just create our own fund. But people identified with it ideologically. People said, and we're doing this because no vaccine mandate. It's like, no, that's not the point. The point is not the ideology behind the control, the intermediariness, the censorableness of the financial instrument. The idea is the censor itself, the intermediary itself. So I beg that Bitcoiners not get caught up in the ideology, because that's like jumping off of the Bitcoin maximalist train and back into the mire. That's when you're back in that place that, as Bitcoin maxis, we're all looking to transcend. It's not about vaccine mandates and about left and right, etc. It's about a global system, transactional, barter-like, intermediary lists, immutable, permissionless, uncensorable monetary system, a system of exchange in which those in power, those who hold control over what they see as the reins of government and the reins of money, can't make decisions for us based upon their politics. So I support the truckers' blockade, not based upon the vaccine piece and not based upon ideology, but based upon the idea that they should be able to express their position in a way in which government can't say, well, we're not going to let you have access to the resources to express that. I really do believe that Bitcoin maxis have to transcend ideology. It's so important, because the minute you jump back into ideology, you're lost. And you have, in my opinion, fallen prey to the very thing that we are trying to create a movement to push back against.